You're opening malevolent portals in your bedroom every night, and you don't even know it. I need to tell you something I discovered 3 weeks ago, something that completely changed how I view bedtime. Father Max Kolbe, the Polish priest who confronted the Nazis and survived a concentration camp, left behind writings on spiritual protection that the church kept hidden for decades. And what chills me to the bone, he described exactly what you do before sleep. Exactly. But relax, take a deep breath, because what I'm about to reveal will forever alter how you prepare for night. Have you ever felt that strange sensation as you're drifting off, like something's watching you in the dark, as if an unseen presence has slipped into your room silently? I used to think it was just anxiety, stress from the day, my imagination running wild, until I discovered Kolbe's writings on the 4 habits he called unintentional invitations. 4 things we do thinking they're normal, harmless part of modern routine, but which actually function as spiritual keys. Keys that unlock doors that should remain firmly shut. And the worst part, most of us engage in at least 3 of these 4 habits every night, without knowing, without suspecting, creating spiritual vulnerabilities the moment our conscious defenses are at their lowest. Because that's exactly what happens when we sleep, isn't it? Our rational mind switches off, our mental filters relax, our conscious vigilance simply disappears. It's like leaving your front door open overnight in a dangerous city, but worse, because it's not just your physical safety at risk. Kolbe discovered this during his imprisonment in Auschwitz. He noticed that some prisoners maintained an unbreakable inner strength even under the most horrific conditions, while others deteriorated rapidly, not just physically, but spiritually. The difference wasn't physical strength, it wasn't age, it wasn't even the faith they professed during the day. The difference was in what they did before sleep. And I know you're thinking, how can a priest from the last century know anything about my modern nighttime routine? That's precisely the question that sent me diving into his manuscripts for weeks, because the 4 habits he described are practically universal today. They're things our modern society not only accepts but encourages, things you probably did last night, and the night before, and for months, maybe years, without imagining that each time you do these things, you're sending a signal to realms that prefer to remain unseen, a signal that says, here, I'm available, I'm vulnerable. The first habit is the most shocking because it's something almost all of us do, and Kolbe called it the glaring invitation. It has to do with light, but not just any light. Have you noticed how your phone seems more addictive at night? How social media becomes more absorbing as the sun sets? How you can spend hours scrolling without even realizing the time passing? Kolbe wrote about this in 1940, 70 years before the first smartphone existed. He called them artificial lights that confuse the natural guardians of the soul, and discovered that certain light frequencies, especially intense blue and white, create a kind of spiritual disorientation. Think of it this way. For millions of years of evolution, our spiritual system has become accustomed to the natural rhythm of light. Sunrise, sunset, complete darkness. Our internal protection mechanisms follow this rhythm. But when you're exposed to intense artificial lights an hour before sleep, you're essentially confusing your own spiritual defense systems. It's like hacking your inner firewall. And here's what terrifies me most. Modern screens emit exactly the frequencies Kolbe identified as most dangerous. It's no coincidence that you feel more anxious after being on your phone before bed. It's no coincidence that nightmares become more common when you sleep with the TV on. It's no coincidence that children who use tablets in bed develop more night terrors. Kolbe discovered that these light frequencies act like beacons for entities that normally can't easily locate us. As if you lit a giant bonfire in a dark forest and shouted, "I'm here." And the worst part is that the effect accumulates. Each night you expose yourself to these lights, the glaring invitation becomes stronger, more visible, harder to ignore for whoever or whatever is watching, but calm yourself. Because if this first habit has left you worried, you need to know about the second, because this one is even more common and even more dangerous. Kolbe called it the empty echo portal. It has to do with sound, or rather, the absence of it. Do you sleep in complete silence? Or do you use some kind of white noise, music, podcasts, a fan? Most people today can't sleep in absolute silence. Our society has become so noisy that real silence makes us uncomfortable, nervous, as if something is wrong. So we add some background sound, something to relax, something to help us sleep. But Kolbe discovered something disturbing about this. He realized that repetitive and monotonous sounds before sleep create what he called auditory tunnels, frequencies that act as sonic bridges between our dimension and others. Think of white noise as a sound highway, a highway that leads from your waking consciousness to deep sleep. But highways work both ways, don't they? If you can travel this sonic highway to reach sleep, other things can travel in the opposite direction. Kolbe noted that prisoners who slept near noisy machinery or industrial fans reported more nightmares, more sensations of strange presence, more episodes of sleep paralysis. And here's what kept me up for 3 nights. He discovered that certain white noise frequencies are almost identical to frequencies that appear in recordings of paranormal activity. This isn't conspiracy theory, it's basic physics. Low, repetitive sounds create vibrations that resonate at specific frequencies, and some of these frequencies seem to act as calls. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night with the feeling that someone was whispering your name? But when you pay attention, you realize it's just the fan or the air conditioner or street noise. Kolbe would say you weren't imagining things. You were hearing echoes of something that was using the sonic tunnel you yourself created. And the more you acclimate yourself to these artificial sleep sounds, the more dependent you become on them. It's not just psychological. It's as if you're training your spiritual auditory system to always keep a door ajar, a door that should be completely closed during sleep. But if you found those first 2 habits unsettling, wait until you discover the third. Because this one is so common. You probably did it last night without a second thought. And that's precisely why it's so dangerous. Kolbe called it the surrender of vigilance. It has to do with your body position in bed. Specifically, how you position your hands and feet when you sleep. This will sound strange at first. But stick with me, because modern science is starting to uncover what Kolbe knew 80 years ago. Your body isn't just a biological system. It's also an energetic system. And the way you position that system when you sleep determines how vulnerable you become. Do you sleep with your arms outstretched, legs splayed in random positions, hands relaxed and open? Kolbe discovered that certain body positions act like energetic antennas, especially when you're unconscious. And your mental filters are off. Arms open in a crucifix position, for example, create what he called a maximum receptive configuration. It's like turning your body into a giant antenna, tuned into frequencies you don't want to receive. And bare feet touching the headboard or pointed towards mirrors, that creates what he described as escape circuits, pathways through which your vital energy can leak throughout the night. Sounds too esoteric? Let me tell you what sleep medicine has recently discovered. Researchers noticed that people who sleep in certain positions report more episodes of sleep paralysis, more vivid nightmares, more sensations of a presence in the room. And when they analyzed the most problematic positions, they discovered something fascinating. They were exactly the positions that Kolbe had identified as energetic invitations. But it's not just about physical position. It's about energetic intention. When you throw yourself onto the bed completely relaxed, without a single thought about protection or care for your spiritual state, you're basically saying, I am totally available, come on in. It's like leaving your front door not only unlocked, but wide open with a sign that says, nobody's watching. Kolbe taught a specific body positioning technique, which he called the Guardian configuration, a way of sleeping that keeps your energetic circuits closed and protected. And here's what impressed me the most. When I started using this technique, the quality of my sleep changed radically. In 3 days, fewer nightmares, less nighttime anxiety, less of that strange feeling that something was wrong in the room. Coincidence? Maybe. But when you discover the fourth habit, you'll understand why this works so well. Because the fourth habit is the most subtle, and therefore the most dangerous. Kolbe called it the mirror of the unprotected soul, and it has to do with mirrors. Literally, guys, do you have mirrors in your bedroom? Mirrors that are visible from your bed when you're lying down? Most people do. A wardrobe mirror, a vanity mirror, a bathroom door mirror. Normal things, practical, part of modern decor. But Kolbe discovered something disturbing about mirrors in bedrooms. He noticed that prisoners sleeping in bunks near makeshift reflective surfaces, polished pieces of metal, glass, anything that created a reflection, had more disturbing nighttime experiences. And it wasn't superstition. It was empirical observation. Kolbe started testing, covering reflections, changing bunk positions, mapping who slept where and who reported problems. The pattern was clear. Mirrors visible from the bed during sleep were directly correlated with nightmares, sensations of presence, and what he called unwanted visitations. But why? His explanation will send chills down your spine. According to Kolbe, mirrors act as two-way windows between realms. During the day, when our consciousness is active and alert, we can use mirrors normally because our spiritual energy is awake and protecting us. But during sleep, when our consciousness withdraws and our spiritual defense mechanisms relax, the mirrors become porous, as if the barrier between what's on your side of the mirror and what's on the other side becomes thinner, more permeable. And here's the part that made me remove all the mirrors from my bedroom the same night I read this. Kolbe discovered that malevolent entities can use mirrors as entry points into our dimension, not like in horror movies, not physically emerging from the mirror, but projecting influence through it, whispering through it, observing through it. And the bigger the mirror, and the closer it is to the bed, the easier it becomes for these influences to reach you. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night and seen something strange in your bedroom mirror? A shadow that shouldn't be there. A movement in the reflection that didn't correspond to anything in the real room. Kolbe would say you weren't dreaming. You were seeing what was really there. And here's what haunts me the most. He wrote that the effect intensifies when you combine the 4 habits. Artificial light, plus repetitive sound, plus open body position, plus visible mirrors. What he called a complete invitation. An invitation for forces that normally remain invisible to become active in your bedroom during your sleep, when you are most vulnerable. But stop. Take a deep breath again, because I know your mind is racing now. I know you're thinking about all the nights you've spent doing these 4 things without knowing. I know because I went through it too. And here's what gave me hope. Kolbe didn't just write about the problems. He developed solutions, specific protections, simple but powerful rituals that anyone can do. Things that transform your bedroom from a vulnerable space into a protected sanctuary. And the most incredible thing is that these protections are based on principles that modern science is beginning to validate. It's not empty mysticism. It's spiritual technology grounded in empirical observation. Techniques that worked in Auschwitz, in the darkest place humanity has ever created, can certainly work in your bedroom. But before I teach you these protections, I need to tell you about the most disturbing discovery in Kolbe's writings. Because he didn't just discover how these entities reach us, he discovered why they want in. And when you understand the reason, you'll understand why protecting your sleep isn't just a matter of personal comfort. It's a matter of spiritual survival. Kolbe discovered that these entities aren't just looking for fun or curiosity. They have a specific objective, an objective that made me completely rethink what it means to be alive. According to his writings, these forces feed on what he called unprotected vital energy. This isn't a metaphor, it's literal. Think of it like this. Your spiritual energy is like a battery. During the day, you use it, it depletes, but it also recharges through positive experiences, connections, your purpose. But at night, when you're unconscious and vulnerable through the 4 habits, this energy is exposed, available, like an open power source in a citywide blackout. And certain parasitic entities can connect to that source and drain it. Have you ever woken up more tired than when you went to bed, even after 8 hours of sleep, as if your sleep hadn't restored anything? Kolbe described this exactly. He noticed that some prisoners would wake up exhausted even after full nights of rest, as if something had sucked their life force during the night. And here's what terrifies me. He discovered that this process accelerates when you have all 4 habits together, as if you were sending a signal that said, "Fresh energy here, help yourselves." But listen to this, because here's where the good news begins. Kolbe wasn't just a passive observer, he was a problem solver, and he developed what he called the Night Sanctuary Protocol. 4 specific counter-habits that not only block spiritual portals, but transform your bedroom into a spiritual fortress. And the most incredible thing is that these techniques are simple, practical. Anyone can implement them today. I'm going to teach you each one, exactly as Kolbe passed them on to the few prisoners he considered ready to receive this knowledge. The first protection he called the purification of light. Remember the first dangerous habit, the intense artificial lights before bed? The countermeasure is more elegant than you might imagine. An hour before going to bed, Kolbe taught what he called the sacred luminous transition. You gradually reduce all artificial lights in the environment, but it's not just about turning off the lights. It's about replacing them with the right light. Kolbe discovered that the light of candles or salt lamps creates a completely different frequency. A frequency that, instead of confusing your inner spiritual guardians, actually strengthens them. The soft, flickering yellow light of candles acts as a protective field, as if you were creating a luminous barrier that malevolent entities cannot penetrate. And here's a secret that few know. Candlelight isn't just more relaxing for your eyes. It's spiritually purifying. Kolbe wrote that fire has always been used by humanity as protection because fire carries an energy that these parasitic entities cannot stand. So, an hour before bed, turn off all screens, all white or blue lights, and light 2 or 3 candles in your room. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Simple candles already create the protective field you need. And while the candles burn, you perform the second protection. Kolbe called it the guardian silence. Remember the second dangerous habit? The repetitive sounds that create auditory tunnels. The protection is the opposite of what you'd expect. It's not total silence. It's what Kolbe called conscious silence. You sit on your bed with the candles lit and deliberately listen to the natural sounds of the environment. The wind in the trees, the rain on the window, even the distant sound of traffic. But listen with intention, with awareness, as if you were creating a kind of spiritual auditory radar. Kolbe discovered that when you consciously listen for 5 to 10 minutes before bed, you're training your spiritual auditory system to stay alert even during sleep. It's like programming an internal security system. You're telling your deep consciousness, stay alert, monitor the sounds, wake me up if something isn't right. And here's what impressed me. Since I started doing this, I've never again had that disturbing feeling of waking up in the middle of the night for no apparent reason, as if something internal was protecting me. But the third protection is even more powerful. Kolbe called it the sleeping warrior configuration. Remember the third dangerous habit? The body positions that leave you energetically vulnerable. The protection is a specific position that Kolbe taught based on ancient traditions of spiritual protection. You lie on your side, preferably your right side. Knees slightly bent, arms crossed over your chest, not relaxed and open. And here's the crucial detail: hands clenched in gentle fists, as if you were holding something precious. Because you actually are. You're holding your vital energy. Kolbe explained that this position creates what he called a closed energy circuit. Your spiritual energy circulates within your own field instead of leaking into the environment. And the feet, always covered and pointing away from any mirror or reflective surface. It may seem strange at first, but after a few nights you'll notice the difference. Deeper sleep, calmer dreams, less of that feeling of nighttime vulnerability. And now we come to the most important protection. Kolbe called it the banishment of the observing mirrors. The solution to the fourth dangerous habit is radical but necessary. All mirrors visible from your bed need to be covered at night. All of them. Kolbe taught using dark fabrics, preferably black or navy blue, to completely cover any reflective surface in the room during sleep. And it's not just about obvious mirrors. Turned off TV screens, computer screens, even the black screen of your cell phone can act as smaller portals. Everything needs to be covered or turned to the wall. Kolbe discovered that this simple action creates what he called a reflective shielding field. Without active reflective surfaces, entities can't use your room as an entry point. It's like closing all the windows of a house before a storm. But here's the final secret that Kolbe revealed only to his closest disciples. These four protections don't work in isolation. They need to be done in sequence, like a ritual of preparation for sleep. And as you perform each one, you mentally recite what he called the Sanctuary Declaration. A simple yet powerful phrase. This space is mine. This energy is mine. Nothing that is not of light and love is permitted to enter here. You repeat this declaration as you light the candles, as you consciously listen, as you settle into bed, and as you cover the mirrors. It's not magic. It's focused intention. It's you consciously taking responsibility for the protection of your spiritual space. And here's what happens when you implement the full protocol. On the first night, you might not notice much. Perhaps slightly more restful sleep. By the third night, you'll begin to notice your dreams have become less chaotic, less distressing. Within the first week, you'll notice you wake up more restored, with more energy, as if your sleep is finally fulfilling its function of true regeneration. And after a month of consistently practicing the protocol, you'll notice something deeper. You'll realize your intuition has sharpened. Your ability to perceive energies around you has intensified, as if by protecting your sleep, you've strengthened all your spiritual sensitivity. Because that's exactly what happens. When you stop leaking vital energy during the night, that energy accumulates, it strengthens, it purifies, and a person with strong, protected spiritual energy naturally becomes more resilient to negative influences in all areas of life. But there's more. Kolbe discovered that people who practice the night sanctuary protocol begin to experience what he called guidance dreams. Dreams that aren't just random mental processing, but genuine communications from higher sources. Spiritual guidance, profound insights, solutions to waking life problems, as if by closing the doors to negative influences, you automatically open channels to positive influences. And here's the most incredible part. Kolbe tested this under extreme conditions, in Auschwitz, in the darkest, most spiritually toxic place you can imagine, and it worked. Even there, his protections allowed some prisoners to maintain not only their sanity, but their connection to the divine. If it worked there, it can work anywhere. But let me tell you something Kolbe never wrote in the official writings. Something I discovered by connecting the dots between his personal notes. He believed we are living in a special time in human history, a time when the barrier between realms is naturally thinner, and that means two things. First, we are more vulnerable to negative influences than previous generations. Second, we also have easier access to positive influences and higher guidance. The difference lies in which type of portal you choose to open in your bedroom. Portals of vulnerability through the 4 dangerous habits, or portals of protection and guidance through the sanctuary protocol. The choice is yours, and you make that choice every night. Now that you know what Kolbe knew, you can no longer say you didn't know. You can no longer practice the 4 dangerous habits out of ignorance. From today onwards, when you go to sleep, you are consciously choosing between vulnerability and protection, between draining your vital energy or strengthening it, between nightmares and guidance dreams, between waking up exhausted or waking up renewed. And here's the last thing I want to tell you. Kolbe survived Auschwitz not just physically. He emerged spiritually stronger than when he entered. Because he learned that our true strength doesn't come from favorable external circumstances. Our true strength comes from our ability to protect and nurture our inner spiritual energy. And there is no more important time to do this than during sleep. Because it is during sleep that we reconnect with our deepest spiritual source. It is during sleep that our soul restores and renews itself. It is during sleep that we receive guidance, healing, and inspiration. But only if we create the right conditions for that to happen. Only if we protect this sacred process from the parasites that want to feed on our light. So, tonight, as you prepare for sleep, remember Kolbe's words. Remember that what you do at bedtime is not just a personal routine. It's an act of spiritual warfare, a declaration that you will not allow anything dark and parasitic to take advantage of your nighttime vulnerability. An affirmation that your bedroom is a sacred sanctuary, protected by your conscious intention and the techniques that worked even in the hell on earth. And when you wake up tomorrow, more rested, stronger, more connected with your own inner light, you will understand why Kolbe considered these protections not just important, but essential. Because protecting your sleep isn't paranoia, it's wisdom. And in a time when dark forces are more active and organized than ever, spiritual wisdom isn't a luxury. It's a necessity for survival. Good night, and sleep protected.